Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out something from Haisstronica. It's going to be a lug crimper and a 220 piece lug set. So let's go ahead and open these up and see what we have. Alright, for the lug crimper itself, it comes in a box and then you open it up and you get this case. Open up the case and here is what you get. Not only do you get your lug crimper, but you also get a good sized wire cutter as well. And these are invaluable, especially when I'm cutting like 2-gauge wire. These cut them like butter. But again, we're going to be testing it against my true and tested Klein wire cutter to make sure that it cuts just as well. This lug crimper also comes with different sizes of heat shrink, which is nice. And it comes with lugs themselves, which is a bonus. I did not expect this. And it looks like it also comes with a small user's manual. And then the lug crimper itself right here. All right, first I want to show that this is not aluminum at all. It is all stainless steel. So it's all magnetic. There's no aluminum on here really whatsoever, which is very nice, including the cutters as well. You can see it's all magnetic. And the way these crimpers work, these lug crimpers, is you don't have to worry about trying to find the die that you need, in like a case, kind of like my hydraulic. It's all built in. If you want to use, if you want to crimp a 2-gauge lug right here, you just set it to the 2. If you want to set a 6-gauge, you press this in. You see how you press it in, and then you just spin it until the 6 is legible. So the 6 is at top. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be angled like that. You want to look at it so it's very, it just makes sense. And you want to set both of them to that. And now you have your 6s right here. And now you can crimp a 6-gauge. And this goes all the way from 1/0 all the way up to 8, I believe. Yeah, there's 8. So it goes, 8, 1/0, 6, 4, 2, and 1. You have the most common crimps that you need all built into this one crimper. So I like that aspect very much. But how does it operate? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare it to my hydraulic crimper over there. So I've got this small piece of 2-gauge wire, and we'll be crimping one side with my hydraulic crimper and the other side with this Haisstronica crimper to see if they both hold up to my liking. So let's go ahead and work on it. And before you do any kind of crimping, you want to make sure and you have quality lugs. And that's what I'm hoping is in this 220 piece pack back behind me. I've always used the same lugs. I'm not affiliated with this company at all. It was just the first lugs I ever bought, and I just kept buying them because I feel like they work perfectly. These are 2-gauge 5/16 lugs from TKDMR. Again, I'm not affiliated, just what I've always used, and I trust them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out 5 of these and I'm going to weigh them to see how much they weigh. And then I'm going to pull out 5 of the 2-gauge 5/16 lugs from the Haisstronica kit over there, and I'm going to weigh those. If they weigh the same, I'm going to be very happy. If they weigh more, I'll be ecstatic. But if they weigh less, I'll kind of think that's a bummer, because if they weigh less, that just means they have less copper per lug. So let's go ahead and get some weights. Okay, these are the lugs that actually came with the unit itself. So I'll go ahead and weigh these, and I'll weigh these as well, just to make sure that they weigh all the same. I should really hope that they will, but I've only got 2-gauge 5/16 in here, so I'm just going to weigh 2 of them for right now. I've got this set to grams, and what I'm going to do is put this container on there and zero it out. So let's see how much these 2 5/16 lugs weigh. And it looks like 22 grams. So now let's go ahead and pull out 2 of the 5/16 lugs from this kit, just to make sure they all weigh the same. There we go. 2 5/16 lugs from the kit. Zero this out again. And these 2 lugs from the kit, they weigh 22 grams as well. So all of their lugs weigh the same no matter if you get it from the crimper or from the actual kit over here. So let's go ahead and grab all 5. Zero this out again. And all 5 of these, I'm guessing is going to be around 55 grams. There we go, 55 grams. So they're about 11 grams each. Let's just say 11 grams per lug. All right, and now let's go ahead and pull out these TKDMR lugs and compare the weight. Put all 5 in here. Yeah, and unfortunately, the pack that I got, that I always use, they weigh 65 grams for 5. So where the Haisstronica lugs weigh about 11 grams each, these ones that I typically buy, they weigh 13 grams. So that just means that these are actually a higher quality. But comparing these lugs in general, I mean, visually, you can see a very, very slight difference in the thickness. And you can actually tell the 2 grams, that the difference between the two. Yeah, again, they both have the size and wire diameter printed on them. And they both have like that flared, you know, insert ring right there, the flared hole, and that's really a big positive in my book. You really want to have that flared end because it makes it so much easier to get all the strands of your wire into your lug. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to compare the Haisstronica manual crimper to my hydraulic crimper from Haisstronica, this right here. And first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about this hydraulic crimper. It works well, but I found that it works really well if you put it in a vise and you're able to kind of vise this part down, and then you're able to hydraulically crimp the lug onto the wire. These, you have to take out these dies, so there's a chance of losing them, stuff like that. And that's one positive I said with this, is that you don't have to worry about losing a die. And then also, I've had this thing for like 3 years, and it leaks hydraulic fluid, which I'm guessing that's what it's called, is hydraulic fluid, but it leaks hydraulic fluid. So every time I use it, I have to wash my hands because there's just fluid on it all the time, and that kind of makes me wonder just how much longer this thing is going to last. So, but let me show you how I use this, and then I'm going to attempt to use the Haisstronica one in the best way I know how. I've actually never used it before, so we'll try it and see how well each one of them works. I am going to be using the Haisstronica lugs. That way it's a cross comparison, not using different lugs. So that way we're just comparing the crimpers and not the actual lugs themselves. All right, I know this isn't really the best angle, but here's how I do it. I open up my vise, and then I cram this thing down as hard as I can. You know, and sometimes it still slips. And then I make sure that it's open all the way. And then I put I'll go ahead and put my lug in there, just until it starts to kind of fit nicely. Kind of about like that. So it's kind of loose, so that way I can adjust the lug to the wire, however, whatever angle I want. And then I just slide my wire in. I make sure all the strands are good. Slide my wire in. You can kind of press it down if you want, and then just start crimping it down. All right. And there you go. And hydraulic crimps, I've always felt that, man, that they're super solid. That's not going anywhere. That's actually the sheathing that's stretching. This isn't going anywhere. And I'm pretty happy with this lug, actually. It's not bad really at all. I mean, it weighs 2 grams less, but it feels really good. I don't have any problems with it. And actually, for full comparison, these are 25. These are 25 millimeter lugs because whenever I put and I think 25 is 4 gauge wire, I believe. Don't absolutely quote me on that, but I believe that's correct. And so I think that's why it almost like over crimps it a little bit. But man, that thing is never coming off. Okay, and now with the Haisstronica, I got to open them up all the way and get it to a 2 die on each side. Which again, I love that feature. That's nice. Okay, and it kind of holds it. And that's another thing about those flared sides. Your crimper just grabs onto them better. And so we'll go ahead and just put this right here. And now I don't really know the best way to do this, because you want to be able to hold your wire, but also kind of crimp it at the same time. So do you just kind of push it against your stomach? Or maybe I should push it against the table. Maybe that'll work. So how about we do this? Kind of line those up so they're both flat against each other, and then just push it down. Like that. Pop it open. And we have a crimp. And again, this is a good crimp. The best way to find out if these are actually good crimps, I could sit here and pull on this all day. But it would be to cut these open. I don't know if I have anything to cut it open. Maybe I do have an angle grinder. So I'm going to try to use an angle grinder to cut right through here, right through the tops of both of these, to be able to compare the wires inside, to see if it's like an actual cold crimp, so it looks like all the wires are one wire. So let me go ahead and cut these, and I'll get right back with you. All right, one side is done and it is boiling hot, but let's check it out. And this is the hydraulic crimp right here. But you can tell, I know my camera doesn't focus in, but look at that. You don't see a single strand of wire on there. I mean, it's definitely a cold weld. So hydraulic, yeah, I was not expecting anything different. All right, we turned it around, and now we have the mechanical crimp from the Haisstronica. So let's go ahead and cut that. And the Haisstronica, you know what? It looks very good as well. But actually, you can see inside. There are still some strands on the inside. Let's go ahead and put these side by side. And they are blisteringly hot because of the angle grinder. Okay, so the Haisstronica is on the right and the hydraulic crimper is on the left. And you can actually see the difference between the two crimps. Unfortunately, the hydraulic crimper, it does a better job. And I feel like this wasn't it wasn't an apples to apples comparison, because I'm using 25 millimeter die for the hydraulic crimper, which I said is a 4 gauge wire. What happens if I try to use a 4 gauge, put it to the 4 gauge crimp on here using the same lugs and the same wire, to see if we can get a better result. Even though that might be over crimping, but I want to compare apples to apples. So let me go ahead and set this to 4. Let me go ahead and crimp a 2-gauge lug with the 4 setting on here and cut it again to compare the hydraulic to this one. I'll go ahead and use the Haisstronica wire cutters to cut it. It should be like butter. Yeah, very good. Compared to my Kleins, yeah, I don't notice any difference really. All right, now I've got it on 4. Let's go ahead and put the lug in there. Boy, it might not even crimp it. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, if you put this on the 4, it won't even crimp. It won't even crimp a 2-gauge with a 4. It's just there's too much meat. So let me go ahead and just crimp it with the 2. Yeah, and doing it like that. And then, you know what, I'll just go ahead and try to double crimp it. I don't know if that's going to help or hurt, but let's go ahead and try to do a double crimp by turning it 90 degrees and then crimping it again. I honestly don't think that's going to do any good, but you know, I've never used a mechanical crimper before, so I'm just trying everything I can. And again, I mean, these crimps, I mean, they're rock solid. I mean, they're not going anywhere, but the whole reason for this video is to compare it to a hydraulic crimper. And unfortunately, my hydraulic crimper is probably so generic that the die is the wrong size. I don't know. But it's always worked, but it crimps the hell out of 2-gauge crimps using a 25 millimeter die. So let me go ahead and put this in, cut it, and see if it's any difference. And would you look at that? I mean, that is that's a solid block of copper right there. And if you look at the lug, that is solid as a rock. So, you know, I don't know if it was the double crimp that did it, or you know, or any other factor that could have changed it, but that really goes to show that it does make a very well made cold crimp. I mean, that's a cold weld right there. It's completely one solid piece of copper now. All right, so what do I think of the Haisstronica Lug Crimper and 220-piece lug set? Well, the lug set, I'm actually a little disappointed that it is that the lugs weigh less than the typical lugs that I typically buy. Even though it's only 2 grams per lug, which really isn't that much, but it is less. So I don't know what the cost comparison is. Maybe I'll put the cost comparison right here. I don't know if I can or not. But I'll put the price for that whole kit and the price for the 10-pack that I usually get. The kit is nice because you have a whole variety. But usually when I buy a lug, it's a specific lug for a specific size wire and connection. So it's either here nor there on which one you want to buy. When it came to the crimping, the lug felt great. I didn't feel like it was you know, a piece of plastic. You know, it still felt like a nice solid lug. And then when I cut them open, you know, the hydraulic, I knew that was going to be a solid connection. But I wasn't really too sure about the mechanical. And when I did the first crimp, there were still a little bit, you could still see a little bit of the wiring separation in the lug, even though I couldn't pull it apart. So it still was a good crimp, but it wasn't a solid block of copper like it should be. Then I did it again, and then that time I did I did a double crimp. Basically, I crimped it and I turned it 90 degrees and I crimped it again, and it was a solid block of copper when I cut it open. So whether you're doing hydraulic or mechanical, I think it really does not matter. If you want to get that great crimp with a mechanical, just do it twice, no big deal. And with this mechanical one from Haisstronica, you have all of the dies right here. It's very easy to read and adjust. You don't have to worry about losing anything, and you don't have to worry about this thing leaking hydraulic fluid after a year or two of use. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start using this for all my crimps, and I'll just double crimp every single time. No big deal. So if you have any questions about the Haisstronica Lug Crimper or the 220-piece set, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I'll have a link to this item and everything else I used in my description, just in case you want to look further into it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and have a great day. Bye-bye.